Good day, everybody. Let's talk about script analysis. Not just the script analysis that actors do, but the more in-depth, more complex, and more thorough analysis that needs to be done by directors whenever they are preparing to tackle a script. So, we're going to work on the directorial analysis for Oklahoma. And the assignment that has been created, I've already done the first two sub-scenes, and I'm going to talk about sub-scenes in just a minute. But as we are looking at the script, you're going to take a look at the script, and you're going to need to go scene by scene, beat by beat through the script in order to make sure that you are fully understanding what's going on in the scene. So let's take a look at the script analysis. The script analysis looks like this. So, whenever you're tackling a script, it's usually organized by chunks, and those chunks progressively get smaller. If it's a multiple act play, you've got the 2 acts, or sometimes 3 acts. Those are the biggest chunks. Then you've got scenes. Those are the next biggest chunks. But the truth is that scenes can often get smaller based on characters' entrances and exits, or major reveals of information, or in the case of musicals, songs. So, Scene 1, for example, in Oklahoma. Act 1, Scene 1 starts with "Oh, What a Beautiful Morning," Curly's famous song. One of the most famous songs in the show. Now, in order to break down and really analyze the different pieces of the story, I've broken Scene 1 into sub-scenes. Scene 1A is just focused on "Oh, What a Beautiful Morning." Now, you'll notice that I give it a director's title. So my title for this is "Oh, What a Beautiful Establishing Song," because that's what it is. Then I fill out the location, the front lawn of Laurie and Aunt Eller's, farmhouse. Time, approximately 10 o'clock in the morning. How do I know that? A line later in the scene. Action of the number, meaning the musical number. What happens in the musical number? Well, Curly waxes rhapsodic about the natural beauties of the day. And also about how lucky he feels. So I'm going to add that. And how good he's feeling about his life. Action of the scene. What happens in this scene and song? So sometimes numbers and scenes can get interwoven. Like, for example, the farmer and the cowman is both a scene and a song at the same time. This one is mostly song. However, we still, in the song, quickly establish the playfulness and charm of Curly, as well as his genuine friendship with Aunt Eller, who we also meet. What are some important events or changes that happen in the story? Well, we meet Curly and Aunt Eller. Those are important. We also establish that we're on a farm, most likely, based on the title of the show, in Oklahoma, the territory. What is this song or scene? Again, it depends. What is the dramatic function? What does it do for us and for the story? So, in this particular song, it introduces us to Curly, and quickly, hopefully, helps the audience fall in love with him. He should be charming, easygoing, and carry with him the confidence of a young man certain of himself even when he isn't. The song also does a good job of pulling us into the story because of its lush melody and innocent joy, which is indicative of the kind of wide-open world of the play. It paints the images of the whole landscape of the world without just showing us the confines of the stage. In other words, it's meant to help us fill in the details. So that's all Scene 1A. Now, Scene 1B, which is what happens after. So there's all, "Oh, What a Beautiful Morning," etc., etc., and then the song ends, and then we go into Scene 1B, which is this scene between Aunt Eller and Curly, and then also Laurie when she enters. So what happens in Scene 1B? Well, I give it a director's title again. Now again, the director's title, there's lots of interpretation there. You can name it whatever you want. It's just a tool for directors to get comfortable with helping label and understand the way scripts chunks work. So my director's title for this is "Curly and Laurie are definitely middle schoolers." The location, the front lawn of Laurie and Eller's house. Nothing's changed there. It's still approximately 10 o'clock. The only bit of song in this beat is Laurie's entrance, which is a little reprise of "Oh, What a Beautiful Morning." And the purpose of that is that it establishes that Laurie, from inside the farmhouse, was clearly listening to Curly sing as he entered. All right, so action of the scene. What happens in the scene? What happens? Well, we get some expositional dialogue that establishes Curly as a successful cowboy and a catch as far as romantic options go, at least in his and Aunt Eller's opinion. This is also the first time we hear Laurie, Aunt Eller's niece, mentioned, and that Curly is clearly pining for her, even though he doesn't say it. Laurie enters, clearly doing chores, and is as dismissive as possible of Curly. And Curly attempts to flirt and also tease that he may or may not ask her to the box social, which Laurie, spelled her name wrong. Laurie promptly mocks him for because he has no way to take her. Now, what matters? What are the important things that happen in this scene? We established that even though Laurie performs disinterest in Curly, she's performing it to an extent. It seems like she's actually a little interested in him, at least a little. We first hear mention of the Cummings girl from Laurie, with perhaps some hints of jealousy underneath. We learn about the box social, and we see Curly's brash confidence and his immaturity. Now, dramatic function. What does this scene do for the story? This important events, this is what happens. Dramatic function, this is why we need it and what it does for the story. So, this scene very quickly provides us exposition we need in order to get to know these characters. For example, Aunt Eller is a charming and loving woman, wise to the world, and not a frail old lady. Curly, for all his accomplishments as a cowboy and good looks, clearly is not the most mature young man. And Laurie's introduction as a local belle and her seeming disinterest in Curly provides a main line of conflict that's going to propel us through much of the story. So, now it's your turn. And this is going to take you a while, folks. There's no denying it. But you're going to go through this one thing at a time. Now, one more thing happens in this scene. 1C. What is 1C? Well, 1C is going to be the Surrey with the fringe on top. So that's where you're going to start. Start by looking at Surrey with a fringe on top. What information does it give us? What title do you want to give it? What does it do? Okay. And then there's a scene in the middle of it. So you can decide for yourself. Is 1C going to be an interweaving of the scene and song? Or do you want to... I recommend that you do that. Don't try to make it 1D. This last little part 1D. That's just overly complicating it for yourself. Because at the end of Surrey with a Fringe on top, we have another chunk of scene 1. All of this is still in scene 1. It's a long scene. This, at the end of Surrey with a Fringe on top, would be where I recommend you doing scene 1D. And that's where we're going to meet some more of the cowboys are going to run on. And also when we're going to meet Will. And so on and on the scene goes, right? So you can have, as you're breaking down a script, you can have so many different scenes in one scene. That's why we give them letters. 1C, 1D, 1E, 1F, etc., etc., etc. Okay? So, just be prepared for that. That's how you're going to keep it organized. All right? You're not going to be perfect at this at first. That's okay. This is meant to be a learning experience. And it is going to take you some time. So be thorough and pay attention to the details. Good luck.